Before we start, I want to say that only 1% of you are subscribed. Please subscribe because when we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will post a special video for you. The conference hall buzzed with a cacophony of interstellar dialects as delegates from numerous planets mingled. Amid the sea of varied alien forms, Tom, a human diplomat and xenobiologist, adjusted his translator device. He was relatively new to these galactic meetups, but eager to foster understanding among the stars. Tom navigated through the crowd, stopping at a booth decked with holograms of Thalox, a planet known for its rich culture and stark beauty, and its inhabitants' distinct aversion to humans. A tall, slender figure with iridescent skin and luminous eyes caught his attention. She was busily explaining a cultural artifact to a small group of interested onlookers. This had to be Lyriel, the Thaloxian anthropologist he'd heard so much about. As the crowd dispersed, Tom approached her, a friendly smile playing on his lips. "Excuse me, Dr. Lyriel? I'm Tom Nash, from Earth. I've read your work on interspecies cultural exchange. Fascinating insights." Lyriel turned to him, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Nash, yes, I know of Earth. Your interest in my work is surprising given your species' history of misunderstanding others." Tom's smile faltered but quickly recovered. "Exactly why I'm here. We can learn a lot from each other, I believe." "Indeed," Lyriel replied, though she seemed skeptical. "What is it you hope to learn, Mr. Nash?" "About your culture, directly from someone who knows it best. Maybe even collaborate on something impactful," Tom suggested, his eyes earnest. Lyriel considered him for a long moment, then nodded slightly. "Very well. Follow me. There's something I'd like to show you." They walked together to another section of the exhibit, dedicated to ancient Thaloxian technology. Lyriel picked up a small, intricately carved device, passing it to Tom. "This is a Corinth. It's used in our most sacred rituals to signify trust and unity. Quite fitting, don't you think?" Tom turned the Corinth over in his hands, admiring the craftsmanship. "It's beautiful. How does it work?" Lyriel explained the mechanics and symbolism behind the Corinth, and Tom listened intently, asking questions that showed his genuine interest. As they talked, another figure approached them, a burly, four-armed Ganter named Kevrish, known for his work in galactic peacekeeping. "Dr. Lyriel, always a pleasure to see Thalox represented by such knowledgeable hands," Kevrish said in a booming voice, then turned to Tom. "And you must be the human who's been making waves with your diplomatic efforts." "I'm Kevrish." Tom shook one of Kevrish's hands. "Honored to meet you. I'm here to learn and hopefully bridge some gaps." Kevrish chuckled, his voice echoing slightly. "A noble pursuit. The galaxy could use more like you, especially during these tense times." The three of them discussed potential collaborative projects, with Tom and Lyriel finding common ground in their mutual desire to promote intercultural understanding. Despite her initial reservations, Lyriel's tone softened as Tom expressed his respect for Thaloxian traditions and his eagerness to facilitate dialogue between their peoples. As the conference wound down, Tom and Lyriel agreed to partner on a joint research initiative focused on the application of ancient Thaloxian principles to modern diplomatic practices. "Seems I was mistaken about you, Mr. Nash," Lyriel admitted as they parted ways. "Perhaps this is the beginning of a fruitful collaboration." "I'm looking forward to it, Dr. Lyriel," Tom replied, the Corinth still in his hand as a reminder of the trust they were beginning to build. "See you tomorrow?" "Tomorrow," she confirmed, a hint of a smile breaking through her reserved demeanor. As Tom walked away, he felt a surge of optimism. This conference might just be the turning point he had been hoping for, a real chance to make a difference. The early morning sun of Thalox bathed the research facility in a gentle light as Tom arrived, eager to begin his first day of collaboration with Lyriel. The building was a modern structure of glass and polished stone, reflecting the technological advancement of its inhabitants. Tom entered the main lab, where Lyriel was already examining several artifacts laid out on a sleek, holographic table. She looked up and offered a nod of acknowledgement as he approached. "Good morning, Dr. Lyriel. What's on the agenda for today?" Tom asked, looking over the artifacts with interest. "Good morning, Mr. Nash," Lyriel replied, her tone businesslike. We will start by analyzing these relics from the Gallum sector. They're believed to be connected to the earliest known Thalaxian settlements. Tom picked up a metallic object, its surface etched with intricate designs. Fascinating, he commented. The craftsmanship is incredible. Do these symbols have a specific meaning? Lyriel moved closer, pointing to the etchings. Each symbol represents a different aspect of our philosophy on governance and social structure. Understanding our past is essential for any future collaborations. As they discussed the artifacts, another figure entered the room. A human colleague of Tom's named Marcus, an expert in alien archaeology. He was carrying some equipment and a broad smile. "Morning, Lyriel, Tom." Marcus greeted them cheerily. "I brought the new spectral analyzers. Thought we could use them to get a deeper look at the composition of these artifacts." "Excellent idea, Marcus," Tom replied. "Lyriel, Marcus is brilliant with this technology. It could give us new insights into the age and origin of these pieces." Lyriel, though slightly reserved, welcomed the help. "Very well, let's see what we can find." The three of them set to work, positioning the artifacts under the spectral analyzer. Marcus expertly maneuvered the equipment, explaining the process to Lyriel, who listened intently. "This should help us identify the elemental makeup and possibly even pinpoint the exact quarry the materials came from," Marcus explained as the machine hummed softly. The results displayed on the screen were a revelation, showing a composition that was rare for known Thalaxian artifacts. Lyriel's eyes widened slightly. "This is unexpected. These materials, they're not from any known source on Thalox. Could they have been imported from another planet?" Tom suggested, intrigued by the implication of interstellar trade. "Possibly," Lyriel mused. "This opens up a new line of inquiry. We might be looking at evidence of early interplanetary interaction." As the morning turned into afternoon, the trio discussed potential implications of their findings, sketching out plans for a joint paper. Their initial awkwardness gave way to a budding camaraderie, fueled by shared curiosity and the thrill of discovery. Over a late lunch in the facility's cafeteria, Marcus raised his cup of coffee in a toast. "To new friends and new discoveries," he said with a grin. Lyriel, now more relaxed, returned the gesture. "To understanding and collaboration," she added, a smile touching her lips. Tom felt a sense of accomplishment as they laughed and shared stories from their respective research experiences. It was clear that despite their different backgrounds, they shared a common goal: to learn from the past to build a better future. As the day ended, Tom and Marcus walked out of the facility together. "She's warming up to us, you know," Marcus remarked, clapping Tom on the back. "Yeah," Tom agreed, looking back at the building where Lyriel was still working. "I think this is the start of something great." The day had not only marked the beginning of their project, but also the start of a new understanding between human and Thalaxian. The next phase of Tom and Lyriel's collaborative project took them outside the confines of the research facility to the verdant countryside of Thalox. They were joined by Dr. Eli Vasquez, a human cultural anthropologist known for his extensive work on alien integration. Eli was an older man with a gentle demeanor and a sharp wit, making him an excellent bridge between differing viewpoints. As they trekked through a dense thicket, Eli marveled at the landscape. "Thalox is truly beautiful, Lyriel. The bioluminescence in these plants, is it natural?" "Yes, Dr. Vasquez," Lyriel responded, warming up to the friendly inquiry. "It's a defense mechanism against nocturnal grazers, but it also plays a role in our night festivals." Tom, carrying equipment for sampling soil and flora, chimed in. "I'd love to see one of those festivals. It must be quite a sight." "Perhaps you will, before your time here is over," Lyriel said, a hint of playfulness in her tone. Their destination was an ancient ruin said to be a meeting place for early Thalaxian leaders. As they arrived, the structure's grandeur took their breath away. Massive stone pillars, covered in moss, loomed overhead, and the air was thick with the scent of history. "Remarkable," Eli whispered, pulling out his digital recorder. "Lyriel, could you share some history about this place?" Lyriel began to recount the tales associated with the ruins, speaking of old alliances and gatherings that shaped the early social structures of her planet. Tom and Eli listened intently, occasionally asking questions to delve deeper into Thalaxian history. As they explored the site, Tom noticed a series of carvings near the base of a particularly large pillar. Lyriel, have these been translated? He asked, gesturing towards the intricate glyphs. Some of them, Lyriel replied, joining him to take a closer look. These symbols speak of laws that were decreed during a time of great environmental upheaval. It was a call to unity for survival. Eli, observing the interaction, suggested, this could be a key piece in understanding how Thalaxian society adapted to changes. Could we take some rubbings? They'd be great for our collaborative analysis. Of course, Lyriel agreed. Together, the three of them carefully made rubbings of the glyphs, discussing potential interpretations and historical contexts. As the day waned, they set up camp near the ruins. The evening was spent around a small campfire, with Lyriel sharing more about her culture. The conversation turned to more personal exchanges, stories of their academic journeys, and the trials and triumphs of their careers. Tom, feeling a genuine connection, shared, I never imagined when I started in xenobiology that I'd be here, sharing stories with new friends on another world. Eli nodded, adding, it's these moments that remind us of why we chose this path, to connect, understand, and maybe make a little difference in the universe. Lyriel, moved by their sentiments, looked up at the stars peeking through the canopy, and perhaps to find that despite our vast differences, there's more that unites us. Their discussion deepened, turning to plans for further collaboration and exploration. Lyriel, once skeptical of human motives, now found herself considering the broader implications of their friendship. As they retired to their tents, the air was thick with the promise of new understandings and the potential for lasting bonds. Tom lay awake for a while, listening to the sounds of the Thalaxian night, feeling grateful for the unexpected turns his mission had taken. The next morning, after a breakfast of local fruits and grains, Tom, Lyriel, and Eli packed up their camp and continued their exploration. The day's goal was to reach a viewpoint that overlooked the ancient city of Valas, which was especially important for Lyriel's ongoing cultural preservation efforts. As they hiked, Eli took the lead, his experience in rough terrains evident. This path should take us right to the overlook by midday. The views are supposed to be unparalleled, he explained, helping Lyriel navigate a steep incline. Thank you, Eli, Lyriel said, accepting his hand. I've studied Valas from texts and holograms, but seeing it from above will give us a new perspective. Tom followed closely, carrying a portable scanner. I brought this along to map the area. It might help us understand how the city's layout contributed to its cultural significance. Excellent thought, Tom, Eli responded. Physical space often shapes societal development in ways that are subtle but profound. Upon reaching the summit, the trio set up their equipment. The overlook provided a breathtaking panorama of Valas below, the ancient structures harmoniously intertwined with the natural landscape. As Tom set up the scanner, Lyriel pointed out key features. That central plaza was a communal gathering spot for celebrations and decision-making. It's where our leaders would address the public. Eli recorded her descriptions, his interest piqued. Public spaces play such a crucial role in civic life. It's fascinating to see how universal some of these concepts are. The afternoon waned as they documented their findings. With night approaching, they decided to camp at the summit to observe the celestial event Lyriel had mentioned earlier. As darkness fell, the sky transformed into a canvas of twinkling lights, the stars and planets vivid against the black of space. Tom and Eli set up a small telescope, aligning it for the best view. Lyriel, could you tell us more about this event? What does it signify for your people? Tom asked, peering into the telescope. Lyriel joined him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. It's the alignment of 3 planets, visible only from Thalax every 50 years. We believe it represents a time of renewal and reflection. As they took turns at the telescope, the conversation shifted to personal reflections and aspirations. Eli shared tales of his youth, inspiring laughter and camaraderie. Tom, Lyriel, it's your turn to share a story, Eli insisted, handing Tom a steaming cup of local herbal brew. Tom thought for a moment before speaking. Well, when I was a kid, I used to lay out on the roof of our house with my dad and watch the stars. He loved astronomy. It's probably why I ended up out here, chasing stars of my own. Lyriel listened intently, then shared her own tale. As a child, I'd listened to my grandmother tell stories of our ancestors under this very sky. It instilled in me a deep respect for our history and a desire to contribute to our understanding of it. The night deepened, and the trio found themselves discussing future projects and the possibility of integrating their findings into broader academic and cultural contexts. The atmosphere was ripe with potential and mutual respect. Before they retired for the night, Tom glanced at Lyriel, noticing a newfound ease in her demeanor. "This has been an incredible evening, Lyriel. Thank you for sharing this with us." Lyriel smiled, a genuine warmth in her expression. "Thank you both. I've learned more than I expected, about the stars and about friendships. Under the celestial dance of planets, Tom, Lyriel, and Eli found themselves not just as colleagues, but as friends bonded by a shared curiosity and wonder at the universe. As they settled into their tents, the silence of the night was a comfortable blanket, woven through with threads of newfound understanding and anticipation for the days ahead. The following morning, after their shared experience under the stars, the atmosphere among the group was noticeably lighter. They packed up their camp with practiced ease, the task flowing smoothly as they chatted about the day ahead. Today's plan was to return to the city, but first, Tom suggested a slight detour. "I've heard there's a small Thalaxian village not far from here, renowned for its artistry and traditional crafts. It might be interesting to see another facet of your culture, Lyriel," Tom proposed, loading the last of the equipment into their transport. Lyriel, intrigued by his interest, agreed. "Yes, that sounds wonderful. The artisans there create with techniques passed down for generations. It's a part of our heritage that's rarely seen by outsiders." Eli, ever the cultural enthusiast, clapped his hands together. "Perfect. It's not every day you get to witness living history." The village was a burst of color and activity when they arrived. Artisans worked in open-air workshops, their hands moving with fluid, practiced motions. The villagers were initially reserved, but Lyriel's presence and introductions eased their concerns. One of the elder craftsmen, noticing their genuine interest, invited the group to try their hand at some of the simpler techniques. Tom and Eli eagerly accepted, sitting down at a workbench laden with tools and raw materials. "Like this?" Tom asked, attempting to mimic the intricate motions of the elder. "More fluid, let your hands relax," the craftsman instructed, a twinkle in his eye. He guided Tom's hands with a gentle patience, shaping the material into a delicate form. Eli laughed as he fumbled with his own piece, his efforts more enthusiastic than skilled. "I think I'll stick to studying cultures rather than creating parts of them." Their laughter and attempts broke down barriers, drawing a small crowd of villagers. The shared experience bridged the gap between the visitors and the locals, with smiles and nods of appreciation exchanged. As they continued to engage with the villagers, Lyriel watched Tom interact, his respect and admiration for the crafts apparent. She found herself observing him more often, noting the way his eyes lit up with each new discovery. Later, as they shared a meal with the villagers, Lyriel found herself seated next to Tom. The conversation turned personal once more. "Tom, why did you choose this path? What drives you to explore alien cultures?" Lyriel asked, genuinely curious. Tom paused, his fork halfway to his mouth. "I suppose it's the idea that every culture holds a piece of the puzzle. Understanding each other might be the key to understanding ourselves better. Plus, there's always something new to learn, and I find that incredibly exciting." Lyriel nodded, her gaze lingering a moment longer than necessary. "I feel the same. There's a thrill in discovery, in sharing knowledge. It's connecting in a way." The meal ended with the villagers performing a traditional dance, inviting their guests to join. Tom and Lyriel found themselves in the circle, moving to the rhythm of the music. The dance was lively, and as they spun and laughed, the last barriers of formality seemed to dissolve. As the sun set and they prepared to leave, Eli nudged Tom, a knowing look in his eye. "You've made quite the impression, my friend." Tom, watching Lyriel say goodbye to the villagers, felt a warmth in his chest. "It's not just me. It's all of us, Eli. Together, we're building something good here." The ride back to the city was quiet, each lost in their thoughts. Tom glanced at Lyriel, who was looking out the window, the fading light casting shadows across her face. She seemed contemplative, perhaps even a bit distant. "Are you okay?" Tom asked softly. Lyriel turned to him, a small smile playing on her lips. "Yes, I'm just thinking about everything. Today was more than I expected." "Good more or bad more?" Tom inquired, concern tinting his tone. "Good, definitely good," Lyriel affirmed, her smile widening. "It's just a lot to process." Tom nodded, understanding the feeling all too well. As they drove on, the city lights began to twinkle in the distance, like stars fallen to the ground, ready to guide them home. After returning to the city, the dynamics within the group subtly shifted. The day spent in the village had drawn them closer, but it was clear to Eli that something more was unfolding between Tom and Lyriel. As a morning meeting commenced at the research facility, Lyriel seemed unusually quiet. Tom, picking up on her mood, waited until they had a moment alone after the meeting. "Lyriel, you've been pretty quiet today. Is everything okay?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. Lyriel hesitated, her eyes avoiding his. "Tom, I'm not sure how to say this." She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Tom's initial shock quickly gave way to a supportive calm. "Okay," he said gently, taking a moment to process the news. "How are you feeling about this?" "It's complicated," Lyriel admitted, her voice a mix of fear and confusion. "In my culture, this situation it's highly unusual. I don't know how to handle this." Tom moved closer, his demeanor reassuring. "We'll figure this out together, Lyriel. Whatever you need, I'm here." They agreed to discuss the situation further over dinner, in a more private setting. Later that evening, in a quiet corner of a local eatery, they met again. Eli, having been briefed by Tom, joined to lend his support, though he was careful to allow them space to talk. "Lyriel, if you're willing, I would like to be involved," Tom said, his voice earnest. "I know we come from different worlds, but I care about you, and I want to help in any way I can." Lyriel's eyes met his, her expression softening. "Thank you, Tom. Your support means more than you know." Eli chimed in, "Lyriel, if I may, this could be a new beginning. It's not just about cultural differences, but about creating new traditions that honor both." The conversation gradually eased some of Lyriel's initial fears. They discussed practical steps, like speaking with cultural advisors and planning how to manage their responsibilities while navigating this new challenge. As they left the restaurant, the cool night air felt refreshing. "I need to think about how to present this to my family and peers," Lyriel said, her voice stronger now. "They might not understand at first." "We'll find a way to make them understand," Tom replied, his determination clear. "We're in this together, Lyriel, and we have Eli and others who will stand by us." The following days were a mix of anxious preparations and deepening bonds. Tom and Lyriel spent hours discussing everything from Thalaxian child-rearing customs to human parenting traditions, finding humor and connection despite the underlying stress. Eli, meanwhile, took on the role of mediator, arranging meetings with both human and Thalaxian leaders to facilitate a supportive dialogue. His experience and diplomatic touch were invaluable as they navigated the complex socio-political implications of their situation. One evening, as they worked late in the lab, Tom turned to Lyriel with a thoughtful look. "Do you think we'll look back on this as the moment everything changed for us?" he asked, half smiling. Lyriel returned his smile, her hand resting lightly on her abdomen. "I think so," she said, "and hopefully for the better." As they continued their work, the foundation of their relationship solidified, not just as colleagues or friends, but as partners facing an uncertain future with a shared resolve. They were no longer just scholars from different worlds, but a budding family, ready to face whatever came next together. The following weeks were a whirlwind as Tom and Lyriel prepared to publicly address their unique situation. They decided to present their case at the upcoming Thalaxian Public Forum, a monthly event where citizens discussed civic and cultural issues. Eli, having extensive experience in public speaking, helped them prepare their statements. The day of the forum arrived, and the large assembly hall was bustling with citizens eager to hear various community announcements and discussions. Tom, Lyriel, and Eli sat together, waiting for their turn to speak. Lyriel looked over her notes one last time, her hands trembling slightly. "You're going to do great," Tom whispered, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. Eli nodded in agreement, offering an encouraging smile. When their names were called, the trio stood and made their way to the podium. Lyriel took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice clear but filled with emotion. "Fellow citizens, today I stand before you under unusual circumstances," Lyriel started, her eyes scanning the crowd. "As many of you know, I have been collaborating with a team of humans, including Tom here, on cultural exchange projects. During this time, something unforeseen happened. I am pregnant." A murmur ran through the crowd, some expressions showing surprise, others concern. Lyriel continued, "I know this might be shocking to some, but I ask you to hear us out. This situation has presented us with an opportunity, a chance to truly embody the Thalaxian values of understanding and acceptance." Tom took over, his voice steady. "I understand the apprehension that comes with change, especially one as significant as this. However, I am committed to supporting Lyriel and our child in every way possible. We believe this can be a bridge between our cultures, not a barrier." Eli then stepped forward. "I've spent my career advocating for cultural integration and understanding. What Tom and Lyriel are doing is brave. It's a real-life example of the peaceful blending of societies. I urge you all to consider the potential positive impacts this could have on Thalaxian society." The audience listened, some nodding thoughtfully, while others whispered among themselves. After the presentations, the floor was opened for questions. One elder stood up, his voice resonant in the quiet hall. "Lyriel, you have always been a respected member of our community. Can you explain how you believe this will affect our cultural identity?" Lyriel replied, "I believe our cultural identity is strong enough to embrace this change. It will enrich us, not dilute us. We will teach our child the values and traditions of Thalax, as well as the best of what human culture has to offer." Another citizen asked, "And what about the child? How will they fit into our society?" Tom answered this time, "We plan to raise our child with a deep respect for both cultures. They will be a symbol of unity and a living example that love and cooperation can transcend differences." The discussion continued for over an hour, with many expressing support, while others remained unsure. Yet, the overall tone was one of curiosity and cautious optimism. As the forum concluded, an influential community leader approached Tom and Lyriel. "I must admit, I was skeptical when I first heard your news. But hearing you today, I see the sincerity and potential in your words. You have my support." Grateful, Lyriel and Tom thanked him, feeling a weight lift from their shoulders. They had faced their community openly and found not just acceptance but also allies. As they left the hall, hand in hand, Tom said, "That went better than I hoped." Lyriel smiled, a glint of relief in her eyes. "It did. It feels like we've turned a corner." Eli, walking alongside them, chuckled. "Not just a corner. I think you've started a new chapter for Thalax, and perhaps for interstellar relations." That night, as they celebrated their small victory, the future seemed a little brighter. They knew challenges lay ahead, but for now, they relished the feeling of progress and the promise of a new beginning. In the weeks following the forum, Tom and Lyriel worked tirelessly, not only on their cultural projects but also in preparing for the arrival of their child. The community's response had been more positive than they anticipated, and this gave them new energy to plan for the future. One sunny afternoon, they were in the middle of setting up what would be the nursery. The room was filled with an eclectic mix of human and Thalaxian decorations, each piece telling a story of both heritage and hope. Tom was assembling a crib that had been designed by both human and Thalaxian carpenters, a symbol of their child's dual heritage. "You know, I never thought I'd be putting together a crib on another planet," he joked, struggling with an oddly shaped bolt. Lyriel laughed, handing him a tool from her belt. "And I never imagined teaching an Earthling how to use Thalaxian tools." Eli, who had become a frequent visitor and honorary uncle, watched them with a fond smile. "You two are going to be fantastic parents." This child will grow up in a world that's richer than the one we knew. The conversation turned to plans for the future. We need to think about education, Tom said thoughtfully, tightening the last bolt on the crib. I want our child to appreciate both worlds equally. I've been talking with the Educational Council, Lyriel added. They're excited to develop a curriculum that includes lessons from Earth. It's unprecedented here. Eli, ever the visionary, chimed in. This is how change happens. One bold step at a time. You're setting a precedent, not just for your child, but for all Thalaxian and human children in the future. Their planning was interrupted by a video call from a group of Thalaxian leaders and human diplomats, including some from the Earth Embassy. They discussed the upcoming Cultural Exchange Festival, a first of its kind, meant to celebrate the union of human and Thalaxian cultures. As they finalized the festival details, Tom noted, we should include a section for children. Interactive games, stories from both worlds, things that can help them see the beauty in our diversity. That's a wonderful idea, one of the diplomats responded. It could help foster understanding from a young age. With the meeting concluded and the nursery nearly set up, the couple took a moment to stand in the doorway, looking at their handiwork. The room was a beautiful blend of two cultures, with murals of Thalaxian landscapes and human cities painted on the walls. This is more than just a nursery, Lyriel said, her voice soft with emotion. It's a testament to what we've achieved together. Tom wrapped an arm around her, sharing the moment. A new home for a new life, where love knows no boundaries. Their thoughts were interrupted by Eli's laughter as he entered the room with a stack of books. I've brought some Earth children's classics and Thalaxian myths. Bedtime stories will be an adventure every night. As they organized the books on the shelf, their laughter and excited chatter filled the room, echoing the optimism that had come to define their journey together. In the twilight of the day, as the Thalaxian moons rose and the first stars appeared, Tom, Lyriel, and Eli stepped outside. They looked up at the sky, a sky that once seemed to hold insurmountable differences, now a canvas of shared dreams. Look at that sky, Eli said, his voice reflective. It's the same one we all share, no matter where we're from. Yes, Lyriel agreed, her hand resting on her belly. And under this sky, our child will grow up knowing both their heritage and the power of unity. Tom smiled, feeling the weight of the future, bright and promising. Under this sky, we start anew. Together, under the vast, starlit sky, they envisioned a world not defined by differences but by the bridges built between them, a world their child would one day help shape.